Welcome to an episode of Inquiring Together. Wing Zero Symphonics. And on last episode of Wing Zero Symphonics, if you're not familiar with the series, the episode was titled What Bruce Lee Was Talking About. It happened to be a video that finally gained traction in a manner of which is for a low to moderate level YouTuber. Okay? And perhaps it's because the title was put in a way that could allow for the viewer to come to an answer. That video would have the answer as to what Bruce Lee was talking about. Because apparently people are really interested to find out what Bruce Lee was talking about. But alas, many did not get the memo that was sent out years ago by Dan Inosanto. Some call him Guru, some call him Sifu. I like to call him Mr. Inosanto. Sent out a memo from Mr. Inosanto. And Jeet Kune Do is fast, powerful, and deceptive. So, in this episode, we're going to get back to, I guess, what occurred at the beginning of this episode, which is that I called the title of this series Inquiring Together. We've since transitioned from Inquiring Together because that's not where most people are at, especially on the YouTube. On the YouTube, people are wanting to know from someone who knows. It hasn't dawned on them yet, but it will, slowly, as artificial intelligence begins to rear its head, whether it's good or bad or ugly. And the relevancy of what Bruce Lee was talking about will also become more apparent to a new generation. And where it's most critically needed within the generation of Metal Gear Solid fans, millennials to Gen X, and even Gen Z. It will also make its way. But enough of all that. A listener or a viewer would come to this channel for the symphonics of a Wing Zero sword. In fact, I need to pull up a little bit about what Wing Zero Symphonics is in reference to. Setup is not optimal, but it's certainly improvised, and that is the quality of musicianship that perhaps we can inquire together about. No, we're not going to inquire together about it. I'm going to tell you about improvisation anywhere from classical and Baroque era, from Bach to modern day rock, like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. But also, you may have noticed this gentleman standing there. And you may have noticed how awesome he looks, which indicates how awesome he is. And it's Yngwie Malmsteen. And he is an electric guitar player who approaches the instrument more like a classical violinist and approaches music making more like a Baroque composer. But the whole of it is within the spectrum of heavy rock music. All right? And so Yngwie Malmsteen ushered in the 80s a genre of music called neoclassical sort of music. And in high school, by the time I had became a intermediate to advanced guitar player, I had heard of his music, and although I didn't listen to it very much, he was definitely in the scope of guitarists that demonstrated extreme skill, not only in composition, but in musicianship. I was more of a Steve Vai fan. But overall, I was more of a John Frusciante fan. That's where all of the musical influences sort of branched out from. From John Frusciante, branched out to Frank Zappa, to Led Zeppelin, to even to Mars Volta. See, so from modern to Lou Reed, and so then it's a chain, it's a branch from influences to influences. So then we get from Lou Reed, we get the Strokes. The Strokes. So on one end, I appreciated music like Steve Vai, and on the other end, I appreciated the Strokes. The Strokes has a guitarist that issued a guitar that had, it's a signature guitar that is a reissue of a original guitar. So this guitarist, Albert Hammond Jr., plays a reissue of an original guitar, and I play the signature of the reissue of the original guitar. And so that's where my guitar playing picked up again during COVID era, where it appeared that we'll all have a little bit more time on our hands, a little bit more of home time on our hands. So why not dig into an instrument in the meanwhile? And so during this time, I had dug into physics or the guitar playing. I suppose some sort of complex look into things. By 2020, my look into physics had been largely shaped by the advancements of celestial holography and backwards, which of course is general relativity, quantum mechanics, string theory. And but if we go backwards, the essence of those experimentally validated notions like quantum mechanics and general relativity, how do they relate to the human experience, the human condition? And then building up from there as to how do these contemporary notions of physics relate back to the human condition. In that way, a sort of validity, not quite experimentally validated as in a science experiment, but perhaps a sociological experiment of sorts, could lend credence, could help the physicist see where this could be going. And so, what about music? Music is something that is a science as well as an art, a craft. So let me relate music to a scientific exploration. Let me pull this up here. So the namesake of this channel is Wing Zero Symphonics. And Wing Zero is in reference to Gundam Wing. And Gundam Wing is a Japanese anime from the 90s, an iteration of the Gundam franchise, and each Gundam series has perhaps interconnected, interrelated stories, but they could be quite their own thing, each series. In this series, there is a system which is called the Wing Zero system. The Wing Zero system in Gundam Wing is an advanced combat interface that provides pilots with instantaneous battlefield predictions. By integrating a vast amount of data, it analyzes all potential scenarios and outcomes, giving the pilot precise information to maximize their combat effectiveness. However, this system has a psychological cost, and that's a series of unfolding events throughout this series. It can overwhelm the pilot with the sheer amount of information and possibilities, causing stress or irrational decision making for those unprepared to handle it. A zero in reference to a mode is a reference out of physics. It's back in about 2015 or so, one of the core components of celestial holography. The aspect of zero mode and how that plays a role into celestial holography's unfolding. But generally in physics, zero mode often refers to a fundamental state or configuration in a system that requires minimal energy. Or it can denote a baseline state of equilibrium. For instance, zero modes in quantum field theory. These are solutions to field equations that correspond to the lowest energy state of the system. Vibrational zero modes. In the context of mechanical or vibrational systems, zero modes are modes where the system as a whole does not change energy, but can undergo rigid motion or deformation. The zero mode often represents a state of potential, either one that can evolve with minimal energy input, or a state that facilitates stability amidst complexity. So relating the zero system and zero mode in physics. Optimized decision making. So in physics, zero mode represents an optimized baseline state, often free of extraneous energy or complexity. Wing zero system provides a similarly optimized state by eliminating uncertainty in decision making, creating the most efficient and effective course of action in a given scenario. Handling complexity. Zero modes in physics often stabilize systems by providing a baseline amidst chaos or complexity. The zero system stabilizes chaotic battlefields by offering the pilot a clear trajectory for success, though it requires mental discipline to handle the influx of information. That's very important. Potential and overload. Both concepts have latent potential. Zero modes can facilitate transitions to higher states in physical systems, and the Wing Zero system enables pilots to transcend normal human decision-making capabilities. Overload is a risk in both contexts. In physics, perturbations can destabilize the zero mode, while in the Gundam, the mental strain of processing the Wing Zero system's data can destabilize the pilot. So, a philosophical intersection. Both the zero mode in physics and the Wing Zero system serve as metaphors for heightened potential and optimization in systems, albeit with inherent risks. They embody the balance between the utility and the human, or systems, capacity to adapt to its demands, a theme resonating both in science and storytelling. And so, at this point, the viewer may ask, hey, I'm here for the Symphonics. Okay? So, the Symphonics, all right? I'm going to take a little time. I just got this guitar back, got its action, its intonation set right, and now I got to practice it for a long time. And take my intermediate to advanced level of guitar playing and break through to the other side, to the advanced level, all right, and challenge my guitar playing where it's never been before. And with that, then, during this course of time, once I get the computer set up, because that's something that has never dawned on me about even amateur music making. To get a certain quality out of it, the computer is going to be quite necessary. So getting the computer right and all those things that go with it takes time and money, which will also enhance the video making. But as well as this year, putting efforts into launching the smart contracting blockchain hub, which is a blank slate, and smart contracts will find themselves on it and interconnecting and interrelating. And one degree of interconnection and interrelating in society is the arts entertainment. And it could provide a new avenue for arts entertainment in the AI world. Right? That's a big thing for artists, entertainers. How is the business model for arts entertainment going to continue on in a world which is individuated and separated, financially speaking? Right? But in terms of physics, in terms of the memo that was sent out a century ago, is that there's nothing not interconnected, interrelated, and a generally relative, non-locally real, and contemporaneously becoming more accepted, validated, holographic universe. So this is the symphony for that physics expression and the storytelling of a world where combat has been necessary, certainly. Most would agree. But then most haven't got that memo on Jikundo and its deceptiveness. So we explore. We explore through music, perhaps what all of this could mean. So the audience perhaps can come to decide that any one decision will be limited. And that perhaps something to do with zero mode, something to do with that, could unlock a new way of looking at the world, a new way of relating to oneself, a new way of relating to one another. And so, looking forward to that.